Good morning, everyone. Mic check, sound check. Good morning. Thanks, Large Void. Appreciate it. Good morning to you, sir. All right, guys. Good morning. It's Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. New day, fresh start. All right, welcome to Pitbull Traders Morning Game Plan. I'm your host, Manny. The purpose of this show is simple: real-time live futures trading, real-time technical analysis, and actionable trade setups, all with the focus on building the real trading skills and the mindset designed to drive consistent profitability. Every morning we come in with one goal: to build out the structure before the open so we're operating in alignment with today's dominant forces. Not guessing, not chasing. All right, let's get after it. Let's map it out. Immediately coming in, we're going to start like we do every morning. We're going to start on our higher time frame. Let's zoom in on the 4-hour chart. Just get a quick look at what's going on there. Not much has changed. Not much has changed. We'll go over that when we drill down a little bit more into the 15-minute. But staring here at the 4-hour time frame, we still have higher lows. So the hourly trend is still intact. Nothing to see there, right? We have higher low, and higher low. Okay. So really where things start to change is when if we breach 73.36, and that's really, really, really far away from us right now. But we all know that if he sells, it's going to sell hard and fast. We haven't seen that in a bit, but just moving forward, carrying it into our narrative, the hourly trend is higher. So we're going to stay with a bullish focus throughout the day. All right. And I believe I'm being joined today by Bo. Just one quick programming note. So we'll see if Bo pops in. Really quickly, I just want to point out a few things. So obviously, when we're this extended, we have to start looking for potentialities, right? So what can happen? Where would the structure on the 4-hour start to change? And while it would change under 73.36, what we have here is I marked out this gray line here. This is a potential. I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to frame. Okay, where can a higher low form? Because that's really what we've been seeing, right? Higher low. We just went through that higher low. So what I framed out here was this in this gray rectangle, this tiny little rectangle at 73. Let's call it 73.75 to 73.80 is an area where we could potentially see a higher low. And the reason why that area stuck out to me is let's just drill down to the hourly to get a cleaner look at it, right? But what we have here is this is going to be the May 8th low and the May 10th low. So these were RTH session lows, right? And we all know how the ES loves to trap, right? So this is the RTH session low here. And the 73.90 low was in the overnight session. But this one on the 8th, which was the 73.89 low, I think that's a potential look below and fail area where we could come down, sweep the RTH low, and maybe do something like this, where price comes down, everybody gets bulled up because we lost these 7,400 round number lows, right? And we come down here and potentially look below. Sorry, let me just get this right. All right, so we all know that 7,400 is acting as a major support. Okay, let's just map that out as a zone. Pretty much everything I do in ES has to be a zone. I think that to look at it from a pure one price perspective is a mistake. All right, so say we come down, we get bullish, and we come down, we sweep this low here. And instead of having a really strong liquidation break, we sweep the RTH low. The top of this structure kind of holds. We put in a higher low and then move higher from there. So the way that would look is something similar to this, right? Where we come down, sweep this low, look below it, fail, reclaim it, and then we go on to the upside. So let's be on alert for that. If you're following the blueprint, that's a setup that's outlined in today's market blueprint. And you can check that out on my X feed at Manny Trends on X. All right, so now that we covered the higher time frame, we know it's pretty bullish. There's not much to see there. It's just been, been calling it the Artemis move to the moon, because it's just been straight up, really a parabolic move that we haven't seen in quite some time. I'm not really sure when was the last time I saw this kind of move. Maybe it was last year off the April low. Who knows? All right, well, let's drill down. Let's get into the 15-minute chart. Let's analyze. This is really where the rubber meets the road, right? Where we kind of frame out what we're going to look for the day and how we're going to engage the market today. So just right away, I want to just talk a little bit about the context, right? So as you guys all know, CPI just came out at 830, right? And it was a bad print. And what did the market do? So it was a bad print and the market rallied. Now, I bet you that there's a lot of people that have been short and are now scratching their heads like, I don't get it. What is going on here? And if that's you also, there's nothing wrong with that, right? There are environments where that newsprint would trigger a bigger sell. But what I want to point out is that the market doesn't move. The economy is one thing, and trading is another. And the market moves based on liquidity and money. And once you start to frame your thinking from that perspective, it kind of it'll help you trade a lot better. I know it has for me. All right. So initially, what we've had over the last 2 days, both Monday and Friday, is we've had this rally, right? That then all of a sudden it just seems like we get a strong rally off the open, and then what do? We just start petering out and we go nowhere, right? Price just stalls out, and we went on Friday, we rallied, and then we just chopped into the close. We had one liquidation break, and then we rallied right back into the close. Similar to yesterday, right? So we had the strong rally off the open, and then we kind of petered out, made a higher high, failed, came right back into range, and then we just petered out. In the overnight session, we then got a further liquidation break. All right, so that's kind of what we've been seeing over the last 2 sessions. Let's be mindful of that. Let's keep that framed out in our head just in case, we run into something similar today. All right, so we're going to begin like we do every morning. Let's ask ourselves, what is the condition of the overnight inventory? Well, prior to the CPI print coming out, I would have to say that it was net short, right? So most of the day, the overnight volume was contained below the settlement, right? But we can also see that there's been an upthrust or a 20-point move off the low, which was 73.9875. Okay, so that will immediately tell us that some of that inventory has been corrected. Furthermore, what we've done is, while we were chopping below yesterday's regular trading hours low, 74.10, right? Sellers were unable to gain a following below there. You can tell that easily here on the 15-minute, right? We can see how many wicks we printed below that level. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prominent wicks and more than that. So every time sellers tried to push price lower, it was just absorbed by buyers sitting on bids and ready to absorb all those sellers. And then what happened? We had the CPI print. We dipped below, and then immediately they turned the lights on, and all those bears were liquidated. All right, so I was going into the RTH session. We still have to look at the overnight inventory as being more short than long, but some of that has paired off quite a bit here. All right, so let's cover. We're going to do as we do every morning. We're going to cover the most bullish argument, the most bearish argument. Then we're going to frame out the bullish trap trade. We're also going to frame out a bearish trap trade, and then cover this dreaded sideways move. All right, so let's begin. Opening up at 74.14, and we get a rally into above the pivot that was just created at 74.20. So we know now here we have a good frame, a good reference point for where the condition might change. And that's this 74.20 high that was just put in a few minutes ago. All right, so if we rally here from 74.14 and get above it, break below 74.20, immediately what we're going to do is we're going to start thinking, okay, we're back into yesterday's range and we took out this lower high pivot. Our attention needs to shift to where? To value area low. Now remember, the value areas every day during the regular trading hour session, there's what we call the value area. And what that is where 70% of the prior day's volume occurred. That's where the market fell into balance, where it facilitated two-way trade, and where there wasn't really much of an extension of the range, right? That market was in balance. Okay, so for yesterday, value area low came in at 74.30. Value area high came in at 74.48. So immediately what we're going to do is, if we do rally and take out the 74.20 low, we want to gauge the strength and the momentum of the move to see if it really has traction. Maybe we get a print like we did yesterday where it's just very, very strong off the open. We get above 74.20. And then on any pullback, we want to see the 74.20 to 74.15 area hold, right? And at that point, we're going to start looking for long entries that get us in, taking our scales along the way, but ultimately targeting value area low at 74.30, and then maybe even potentially a gap fill up to the settlement, which is at 74.36.75. Okay, so again, that setup kind of makes sense here. Although we never know what's going to happen because of the state of the overnight inventory being more short than long. We know that typically what we see when the overnight inventory is leaning one way, at some point during that regular trading hour session, that inventory gets corrected unless the market is super bullish, and it's and we'll be able to tell that off the open. All right, so that covers the most bullish argument. Let's talk about the bullish trap trade. All right, let me just get my screenshot here. Boom. All right. Going away with that. All right, so say we opening here, 74.14, 74.15, and we get a rally just off the open. Price rallies very strong like it did yesterday. And then let's say it approaches, assuming that we get a strong rally, we test value area low, or we test these prior overnight highs at 74.30 to 74.35, and then price stalls. It looks above, it comes into the value area, but instead of finding acceptance, we start to get this choppy sideways look and then come back down below prior day's value. And the value area low of yesterday being 74.30, we know what price to look for. So if price gets rejected from yesterday's value, right, immediately our thinking needs to shift. We need to be on alert for a potential trap trade. At that point, we can start entertaining short entries with our risk marker being these local highs and even value area low at 74.30. And at that point, we start to look for short entries or short scalps that get us down to 74.20, this prior high, to retest it potentially as support. But at that point, we're taking our scales out. We're in a runner, and we have our stop move to break even. And that's really the way you want, for you guys trading prop accounts, that's really going to be the way you pass your evaluation and stay funded and get those accounts to pay out, is really by protecting your risk side, making sure that you take risk that's adequate for your account side, whether that be the 50K or 150K. All right. So that covers the bullish trap trade. At that point, we would see the liquidation break, and we get back into the overnight range, and we could reassess things at 74.20. All right. So let's move on to the bearish argument. Okay, so we're opening here at 74.14, and immediately off the open, we see a liquidation break, right? The first point of reference that we're going to be monitoring is what? 74.10. That's yesterday's regular trading hours low. So if price breaks below 74.10 with strength and momentum, and we can see that there's no bounce, and then we have acceptance below yesterday's low, 74.10, immediately what we're going to start thinking is, okay, so in the overnight session, we were rejected from prior day's value here at about, let's see what time that was. That was roughly at about 10 p.m. Price attempted to reclaim value area and failed. Okay, so we have a clear rejection of the prior day's value, and off the open, we're not seeing any attempt to drive price back higher or to correct the overnight inventory. So at that point, if we find acceptance below yesterday's low, immediately what we're going to do is stay on alert. We're going to look for acceptance below, but then entertaining short ideas with our risk marker being yesterday's low or the local low that forms after the structure builds out. Okay. And at that point, what we're going to do is look for short entries, right, that get us down to the overnight low being 73, 98, 75 to satisfy the 96% statistic. Okay. So that's kind of the most bearish argument, where we just see the liquidation break off the open. And when ES sells, it's a hot knife through butter, right? So we'll see it. We'll know it when we see it. We'll monitor for where it stalls out. But if we are truly bearish, we're going to cut through yesterday's low. We're going to reach overnight low. It should not take long. We're looking at maybe potentially filling this within the first hour of trade. So stay on alert for that. Okay. Let me just get a quick snapshot of the most bearish argument, and then we'll move on to the bearish trap trade. My favorite. Oops. What happened here? Yikes. Hang tight. Oh, looks like I lost my little pen. That's weird. All right, guys, I'm going to have to work without the pen. All right, so say we get a liquidation break just off the open, okay? Hey, good morning, Bo. Sorry, I didn't have your mic on. Sorry, bud. Good morning. Thanks. All right, so I'm almost through it. I'm almost through the open here. We're going to open in about 2 minutes. I got a screenshot of the most bearish argument. Let's go into the bearish trap trade. All right, guys, say we're opening here, 74.16, right? And we get that drive lower, and we look below yesterday's low. Say we get an attempt to reclaim the low. It fails. We trade a little bit lower, but ultimately find support, start petering out, and we put in that like inverted head and shoulders look. At that point, what we're going to start doing is looking for acceptance back above yesterday's low, and we're going to start looking for entertaining long trades, long scalps that get us into that inventory correction and maybe even a potential test of yesterday's value area. But we can start to look at entries above these local lows, these local highs on a break of them. And then we can start taking our scales along the way, making sure we get those accounts funded, making sure we get to payout and protect our risk markers, right? And start driving price higher. So I think that can also manifest, if you take the same kind of thinking, it can also manifest below the overnight low, something similar to this. I think you guys get the idea. But yeah, so that's the bearish trap trade. I think that has a strong possibility of playing out here. But you know what? The moment I say that that's going to play out or something has a higher probability than the other, I'm always proven wrong. So take that with a grain of salt. All right, so we have the opening bell here. What we do every morning is we jot down the opening print, right? We want to make sure that we get that opening print. And remember, the opening print is literally just the first price that traded at the open. It's 74.14. I know Bo likes to use it a lot, and it's a really good tool to use to frame out how the day might develop. Okay, so let's just look at how the first candle is forming in relation to that print. You can see just here off the open, we've kind of just wicked, and now we're testing yesterday's low. Let's see what happens here. So immediately we're getting that scenario, right, where we kind of discussed, where price is there hasn't been an attempt yet to correct the overnight inventory. It's super early, guys. We've only been open for about a minute. Let's see how this materializes. But all of a sudden, we just looked below yesterday's low at 74.10. All right, hey, Bo, what's going on, man? How are you? Good, not too bad, not too bad. Another. Have you got any trades on, Bo? Okay, good to know. All right, good to know. So, hey guys, here we are. Right, we're so we've opened. There's been little. We wicked above the daily open. All right, and there was near a bounce at yesterday's low. So now we're back below. We're looking to test the overnight low at 73.98.75. Stay on alert for that. We have the liquidation break at the open kind of scenario that we were talking about. Let's just make sure that we watch it, monitor it carefully here. I know I'm going to be really careful here at the open. The fact that the overnight inventory was more short than long, there's always you have to stay on alert for a counter trend move that kind of resets that. So we are testing that prior support band at 7,400 to like 7,405, with the overnight low being 73.98. Let's monitor carefully here. Remember, we only need one good trade, right? So let's wait. Let's see what the morning brings. We've only been open about 6 minutes. So we came to within a few ticks, 6 or 8 ticks of the overnight low. Let's watch there. Probably get a test there soon, but you know how the market loves to fake out. So like to watch here. This is a support area. I traded it earlier before. I got 3 scales out of it, and I'm just monitoring it here. Yeah, so I don't know if you heard, Bo, but that CPI print came in hot. I think it was pretty. I don't ever pretend to know too much about macroeconomics, but it came in pretty bad. I just read the headline on the notification. It goes, what was that notification? I think it was one of these financial apps that I have. Anyway, guys, this is that support area on the market blueprint. So make sure you watch that. Okay, so it says consumer prices rose 3.8% annually, and in April more than expected. Yeah, so I'm in that long though from the setup number 2. Let's see if we can get the first target. 74.11. Wait, this is wrong. This should be 74.14. And then 74.09, 75. So looking for 09.75 for the first scale. Sorry, this is the wrong chart. All right, looking for, I got the first 5-point scale, guys. So that's great. I'm looking for 14s on the next one, 14 and a quarter for a 10-point fill. And then after that, I'm looking to get 24. I'm looking to get above that 20 pivot if I can get them. But that's my runner, and I'll manage that, very, very dynamically. I was in this trade already from the open. As I mentioned earlier, I got 5, 10, and 14 out of it. So I was a little hesitant to take it again, but just the understanding that the overnight inventory was short, and that we tend to see liquidation. We tend to see that inventory reset. Also, following the execution clock, looking for that AM high. Yeah, so I think I shared this chart in the room yesterday. We'll wait to see what we get a fill, but just to review with you guys what happened yesterday. If you're using the clock, this is how yesterday kind of played out, though, so you can see it here. There's really nothing else like this clock. It's the ultimate tool for me, I guess. So we ahead of time, we knew that we were getting a low in between 10 and 10:45 with a center time of 10:30. So it came in a little bit early, but we still nailed the window. The high kind of formed and rolled over, but right into the low. I remember I traded this long, so that was great. And then we had the 230 high into our 330 low, so that worked out pretty good. Happy about that. So if you're using it, it's on my X feed at Manny_trends on X, and we're looking for that AM high here. So let's see if we can drive a little bit higher, and then we'll get into a runner and see what that runner brings us. Can never tell. I'm going to go ahead and protect. Just kind of yapping, and I wasn't paying attention. NQ on crack. Hey, check it out. Oh, it didn't give you the read on the Eternals. Whoa. So we got on the NYSE negative 2.3 to 1 negative on the NYSE, 1.3 to 1 negative on the NASDAQ. We have the Russell. Dude, the Russell was leading, and now it's been the weakest of the bunch. The 10-year is up almost 1%. We have a big bond auction today. It's just a new stacked week. The VIX is up 18.6. If you've been reading the market blueprint, you understand that we've been kind of expecting a higher VIX. I think we're going to go into an environment where you see the market higher and the VIX higher. We'll see how that plays out. The VIX is gapping up, but it's now below its first 5-minute high. Whoa. What happened there? Did we get a Truth Social bomb? Let's check the feed. Trump says we have to do tariffs in a different way, which is much more efficient. I'm not sure if that was it, but definitely got a little bit of a liquidation break there. Why not? I just got my stop breaking out, stop taking out of break even, guys. So I took one off at +3 when it was coming way down off the news drop. So 550 on that. Not a, not the outcome I expected, but uh, yeah, I see. I disagree, Bo. I think that when I see a move like this, I've made the most money I've ever made trading this. Like this is what I just get giddy about when we're like you let Yasir off the April lows. I just keep buying the dips and they just keep working. I love staying in alignment with the higher time frame. It kind of just makes trading easier for me. And but that's just what works for me. We all have different approaches. Um, yeah, I All right, guys, if you just no, go ahead. Hey guys, if you're just joining us right now, I'm Manny Trends with from Pitbull Traders, joined by Bo today. We're tracking the ES. So we just hit a support, the overnight. We just tested below, almost to the overnight low. We came to within a few ticks. We opened at 74.14. We price immediately wicked on a 15-minute time frame, and it sold off pretty hard. We're back below yesterday's low, 74.10. What we're tracking here is, do we get acceptance below yesterday's low? Does the support continue to hold? Or do we get a further liquidation break down below yesterday's low for a continuation of what we saw yesterday? We kind of have this support zone here. We're going down to test it now, satisfy the 96% stat. And yeah, so we'll continue to monitor it, let you know. Let us know where you're checking in from. Drop a comment. Dude, if that 74.53 high that we made yesterday in the RTH session turns out to be like, I don't think it's going to be a high that sticks, but if we if if that turns out, so I, you guys have been following along. I was back when we were trading 6,400. I was calling for a target of 74.50 to 7,500. We clicked 74.54 yesterday. Pretty happy about that. If you 74, 54, 75 high, I think that's pretty amazing. And if you're following along, go check out my X feed. I'll let you know what I think where the next move is. I've been kind of telegraphing that all week long, clandestinely asking if sell in May and go away, kind of like the euphorism I'm using for that. But yeah, go check it out on the X feed at Manny Trends. I'm just at Manny_Trends. I wrote a big piece on it yesterday. Not a big piece, but I guess for me it's a big piece. Still getting to, yeah, we're getting some pretty good. So we're back below the overnight low here. So yeah, guys, if you're short, stay short. If you're right, stay right. All right.
locks in, 8 points on my runner, which may or may not become a runner. Like, it shouldn't really recapture the zone here if it's going to actually continue to collapse. And I don't necessarily know. Like, I think it can, but whether it does, everything's been so strong that it doesn't have to by any means. But for me, now my next stop move is to try and see if we can trade down to like 79 or so. And then I'll look to see if I can move my stop, because I want to try to stay in the trade. So instead of necessarily just taking a limit fill down in that zone, I want to see if this thing starts going, does it really start going? I'm kind of like that. I like to sort of hit the home runs when I get it, It's also just part of my trading plan. We haven't had a day in a long time where we've had like a minus 2,000 on the advanced declines. That's kind of the type of thing I'm looking for, to just have a little, and again, it doesn't mean the bull market's over, but just a little bit of a correction here. And I thoroughly would expect everyone to reload, right? Because everyone's talking about how bullish everything is. I don't know. I'm worried about the consumer for sure. That's why I'm saying watch Amazon. I don't know what other bellwethers to watch in terms of the consumer, but I was noticing Walmart and Costco and things like that were down decent yesterday. Now today you're getting a little bounce in those. So, and then oftentimes they'll buy Apple as sort of a defensive play against the rest of the mags. So Apple right now is on its highs. But just rotations. It seems like it's rotations all the time. So just follow your process. Don't get too crazy about things. Like, I'm not, I wouldn't sit here and expect like a 200 point down day today. It's not like we couldn't get that, but that's not, really the kind of thing I would expect this morning. Make sure that's updated. Home Depot, yeah. Let me take a look at Home Depot.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. I got zoinked.
Yeah, look at that chart on Home Depot. That's.
As I was saying, just like I didn't realize I got cut off. So we came up, guys. We tested the overnight low, right? That's what we were talking about in the pre-market. That was the entry right there. Let's see if we get some follow through on it. So 73.98, looking for 90. Got the first one off. Got the first one off at 92. Looking for 89 on the next. Let's see if we can get some follow through here. Got to be careful at this level though, because they tend to trap around this level, reclaim it.
Got our 30-year bond is above 5%. If it moves up through these levels at 5.25, 5.5, it doesn't bode well for the housing industry, that's for sure. We've been in a housing recession here in Colorado for at least 2 years now. And for sale signs are popping up left and right. Things aren't moving. So it's an really interesting time as far as, how much the market can just keep ripping higher and the rotations just keep going into the tech world. And I get it, Yeah, it has been hammer. We might get this look below and fail here, Manny, that you guys like a lot on the long side. I mean, frankly, if that's all the selling we can get, it's just back to the normalcy of bull market rage. You get 35 minutes of selling, and that's about it. But you do want to watch the bond market closely today, I think, probably throughout the rest of the week. Yeah, T-bone. The other thing is you have the crude rolling over. That's also on Friday, I think. Ten-year is currently at 4.455%. Yeah, I mean, I hate to see it. What happens if we violate that little cup and handle high that you're talking about, Billy? It could be a little bit of a nasty one if that's what the market tunes into. I'd like to think that the construction industry wants to try to keep plowing through this, you know, I mean, you want to stay busy, you want to be working on your projects and all that, but
Sorry about that, guys. I'm having some tech difficulties here with my camera, my in the streaming software. So it's knocked me out twice already. I'm going to try to see if I can get it. I don't know uh, what's really causing this, though. To be honest, let me just see. Hang tight. It's like last time when I brought up the screen share, it booted me out. Let's just see what happens now. If I get booted out, then you know why. Oh, so just a quick update though. So guys, we got what we got. We got the retest of the overnight low at 73.9875, traded as high at 74.01, and now we're fading, right? So that was our entry there. Let's just stay alert here for continuation, monitor for continuation. Doesn't look like the low of the day is in. Let me see if I can get the screen share back up. It's dicey, it's dicey, it's dicey. This is where I lost it last time, so we'll see. Okay. Looks like I'm stabilizing here. Let me just check these resources. Okay.
some profit taking as you would hope for at some point, and some of these chips. Feels like just barely a blip though compared to what they've done in these face ripping rallies. Getting a potential reversal here on the 1 minute chart. So it's not the kind of look below and fail price action yet, but if they just start taking that upside liquidity, it could be. Still have my stop at 5 3/4, which is again just right in the middle of this previous range. So I didn't really want to see it even get up here to 2 3/4. And so the question is, will this be a failed upside break